I'm doing another video today, kind of special request. Somebody had asked me specifically if I could put up a video all about P-cord and P-cord bracelets and how to make the various P-cord items. I'm sure a lot of people know how to do this already, and I know there's already a lot of videos out there on how to make P-cord bracelets and weaves and lanyards and all sorts of stuff, but you'd be amazed at how few people actually have the knowledge walking around a base like this day to day. One of my special skills that I seem to possess that not a lot of people have around here is the P-cord stuff. And I'm not sure where I picked it up. It's just one of those random weird skills that I have, and I pass it along whenever possible. I've taught a lot of people how to do this. I've attempted to teach even more. Some people can pick it up real easy and some people can't. But like I said, I was asked to put this video out there and kind of spread the knowledge around, and I have no problem doing that whatsoever. So here we go. I hope you guys don't mind the music on in the background. Normally I do my videos in just kind of silence, but you know, I'm just in that music mood, so I've got some Dos Gringos playing, and they'll be in the background throughout, and I hope it's not too distracting or anything. But in front of you right now, I've got 2 bags of P-cord that I picked up just today after work to work with. Here's just some extra P-cord I have lying around, just so we can go over it and look at it a little bit. And the basic tools you're going to need. You're going to need some kind of knife, cutting instrument. You're going to need a lighter and a button for making bracelets and stuff. But we're going to talk about making more than just bracelets. P-cord, just to get into it, 550 cord, parachute cord, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same stuff, and it all follows the same formula. It's made by different brands, different colors, some is thicker than others, but basically you've got your nylon outer shell, and then you've got your 7 inner strings inside of it, and it's called P-cord, or 550 cord, because back in the day when this was first invented, this is what parachute risers are made of. The risers go from the harness up to the canopy itself, and there's usually a series of between 12 and 20 risers. And each one of these strings right here can support 550 pounds. The reason you need so many is because when a parachute opens and you've got, say, a 180-pound guy under it with another 75, 80, 90 pounds of gear, that's a pretty significant shock when that parachute opens and those strings have to suspend that weight and stop it. So literally, yeah, this will hold 550 pounds. Every time you put a bend in it or a curve, you're reducing the actual tensile strength of that. So this right now, curled up, will hold less weight than straight. And I don't understand the physics behind it, but it was all explained to me in school one day. When you take these 7 inner strings out, then you're reducing the weight bearing even more. These inner strings, I have never found too much use for them once they're outside of the P-cord, so we're going to go ahead and just throw this away. I guess one of the most common uses for P-cord around here is making bracelets, and you guys have seen this one on me in most of my videos, if not all of them. Every time I deploy, I make another bracelet, and I bring it home, and I have 2 young boys, and I give one to each one of the boys, and this is, you know, the bracelet that Daddy wore on this deployment. The history of this, just to get into that a little bit too, I'm not exactly sure how far back it goes. I know that back in my Army days I learned about this. Really, depending on the tradition you choose to believe in, this is the symbol of a soldier, airman, Marine, sailor that has deployed. The way that we used to do it in my old Army unit was the experienced guys make one for the new guys, and then it's kind of passed on like that. So the guys with the bracelets have been given them, and it kind of just signifies, like I said, that, you know, you have deployed, you've been out in the world and done the real life job. I think it's changed a little bit now. You see these very commonly. People make them for their families, people that haven't deployed wear them, and it's just the mark of the military tradition, and that's fine with me. I don't always need to hold those very strict traditions that only someone who's deployed to combat gets to wear one of these. I think that's actually kind of dumb. I think that anybody that's serving, anybody that's related to somebody serving, anybody that just wants to, that has served and feels like they want to give this to somebody as a symbol to them, that's fine too. That's awesome. And, you know, I think it looks pretty nice. Better this in a uniform than, you know, some bright, shiny silver bracelet, which, believe it or not, is authorized somehow. But so there's just your basic P-cord bracelet with a button. There's also another way to make it with a clip, a little snap lock clip. If anybody really is interested in learning how to make one of those, let me know, and I'll do a video on that too. It's a bit more complicated than with the button, though. This button, same thing as over here, is just a standard uniform button. It's the uniform that's been on the OD green fatigues, and then the BDUs, and now the ABUs/ACUs/multicam uniforms. You can get these things on Amazon, just a giant bag of them for cheap. I don't know exactly how much. You can also cut them off an old uniform, or you know, one of the traditions we follow is you want me to make you a bracelet for your first deployment, I'll make it, cut this button off of your uniform somewhere, and that way it's actually a part of your uniform, sort of. So the colors don't really matter. There's all sorts of colors. In the actual military PX/BX, They sell tactical type colors, and you know what I got here is a sage green and a desert tan. You can find coyote brown, same color as this background right here that I'm using over here. Black, OD green. But if you look online, and I'm going to put a couple websites right here. I don't know if I put a link, but I'll actually just put the web addresses right down here. You can get any color you can imagine, any combination. They have glow in the dark, they have reflective, wild neon colors, whatever. So whatever you want to do with it, you can probably find a color for it, and it's not that expensive. This right here, $6 for about 100 feet of it, you know, buying in a military base. The actual pretty color ones, not much more. Maybe at the very most, $10 for 100 feet. And then you can buy spools of 1,000 feet. You can buy packages as small as 50 feet. So you have a lot of options with what you're doing there. Other things that, you know, we do with the P-cord, kind of cheesy, but keychain. And it's, you know, it's a pretty simple, easy way to make it whenever you need to hold on to little items like that. A lot of people will make lanyards for knives. I'm not a big lanyard fan. I say that all the time, but you know, it's just a simple way to do it, and I'll go over how to make these too. You know, you're limited only by your imagination with what you can figure out how to do with this. And of course, there's the P-cord wrapping around fixed blade handles for knives, which I don't have any fixed blades out here, but at home I do, and I have some wrap with P-cord because it's got some advantages. So we're going to start by just talking about making the basic P-cord bracelet. This is specifically the reason that I was asked to make this video in the first place, and it's not very hard at all to do. You can make a bracelet that is all single color on both sides, or you can do a multicolor one like this. Slightly, like 1%, a little bit more difficult just to start off the multicolor ones than the single color ones, but to actually do the steps to make it, it's exactly the same. So the first thing you want to do is you want to start with 2 lengths of parachute cord, and the way I measure it out is I put my arms extended just out to the sides, and I want 2 strips, one of each color, say for a multicolored one, from middle fingertip to middle fingertip, and that usually is going to be a good measurement and a good guide on how much to use. So we're going to go ahead and just break open this package right here, and we'll make one that is desert tan and sage green. Back in the Army days, my first experience learning how to braid P-cord came because it was just a good way to take a big bunch of P-cord like this. And, you know, this stuff, if you haven't served in the military, I can't tell you how often this stuff is used. It's one of the most multi-purpose use things everywhere. You should always have a knife, a lighter, some duct tape, and P-cord, and there's nothing you can't fix with that. So I first learned how to braid P-cord to take messes of cord like this and turn it into a more manageable, less tangled, more usable state, basically just for transport and carry. And actually, we'll start with the single color bracelet because it's a little bit easier just to get started. So what I like to do is just get all the ends lined up, and for this one we're leaving the strings in. You can also do this with the strings out for a smaller finished product. If you're, you know, typically females, or, you know, if you're making one for the kids, or you just want it a little bit thinner than this, you'll take the strings out. We'll leave the strings in for now. So all you have to do is start with a loop, take your second string, and you'll lay it behind. So loop, string behind, take one side, it doesn't matter which side you start with, and you'll lay it on top of those 2 inner strings. So we've got the original loop, string behind it. We'll say the left side comes over. Hold that all nice, and you'll get it. You know, once you learn the muscle memory on this, you'll never forget it. So now, basically, we've got the original loop and a second loop like this. The cord in the back will pass over top, behind, and through the loop to the left. And then, now this is really the only tricky part, is just getting this to hold. And you'll pull that just a little bit tight enough to hold the pressure, and all you really need is about 1 inch or so of this loop right here. Yeah, that's good right there. Pull this nice and tight. Now from now on, you're really not even going to touch these inner strings. You're just going to be working with the outer strings. And you want to remember that now that this is the string that's on top, this should always be the string on top. And this is the string that's in the back, it should always be the string that's in the back. So we'll take, and the way I'm comfortable doing it is I always work on one side. So if I started on the left side, I'm always going to work with the left side string, whether it's on top or on the bottom. You just remember to alternate. So the first string that we worked with on the left is now the top string, so we're going to take this, it's going to go behind these 2 middle strings. This string over here, which we'll call the top string now, actually, goes around and through the loop, so you end up, again, notice the pretzel look right here, and you pull that tight. You know, pull it as tight or not so tight, whatever you want, however you want this to look. I like it kind of tight and very close looking. All right, so now the left string is the top string, so it goes on top. The back string goes over, around, and through the loop. And again, here's the pretzel look. All right. And we pull. And you see it's starting to take shape. As long as you remember to alternate back, front. See, and once, like I said, once you get good at this and you get the muscle memory down, you can knock these things out in no time whatsoever. It's very easy to do. You don't even have to look at it. In fact, I'm not looking at it right now. I'm looking at the computer to see what song is going to play next. Your fingers get the feel for it. And you just make it as long as you want. You know, and what you should do as you're going is, like with this one, what I always do is, from that point, I'll keep measuring. It's okay to have as much extra in the middle strings as you want. You just want to make sure that you have about 4 times as long on the end strings as you need to cover your whole wrist, because that's about the magic formula right there. So if we were to wrap this around my wrist, let's say it's for me, and you make it just slightly big, because if you take this in like a very hot shower and let it dry, the nylon will shrink up a little bit. So you can see, giving myself just a little play right there. Okay, this is how long it actually needs to be, right here. So we want these strings to be at least 4 times that length to make sure that they fit all the way down. That's really how you do the math on that. So you'll complete that all the way down, the full length. When it's all done, then you'll put on the button, and then it will be finished. Now, just keep in mind that the technique for doing this is the same, whether it's multicolored or whether it's single colored. I'm not going to go through the whole thing right now in the interest of not making this video super long. I'm going to get the strings for the multicolor bracelet ready so that you can see just the difference in how you start it. Now, if you look at these 2 strands, you'll see I cut one just a little bit longer than the other. That's fine. They don't have to be perfectly even. It doesn't really matter. All right, so I've got the 2 different colored P-cord, and as I've already said, the only big challenge here is starting it correctly. And I'm going to show you another technique I use to kind of cheat and save some cord as I'm going. Take your 2 lengths, right? Figure out exactly how long you need the middle section to be, and then add a little bit extra, and you'll see why we want a little bit extra. So let's just say we're doing this much. I don't know how much this adds up to, but this is how much we're going to do. So of course, make sure that these will become the 2 inner strings. Make sure that you have 4 times that going down the sides. Once that's done, you're going to end up with 1 green string in the middle, 1 tan string in the middle, or whatever colors you're using. All right, so we've got our 2 strings, we've got our middle strings, we've got our outside strings. So I'm just going to start by taking a loop behind. So all you've done is taken your middle string, looped it around, and put it behind the 2 of these strings. All right, and you can leave this loop as large as you want right now, it doesn't matter. The string that's on the right is going to go around, right, and through this hole. Now here's the challenging part. You got to hold this just right. You can cinch this loop down a little bit to give yourself that inch or so. Okay. Now holding this all firm and tight, you're going to take this string that's going through the loop on the left and pass it on top. Try to keep that loop up there on the top nice. All right. So we're going to go over, around, and through. And now we're going to pull this semi-tight. You just want to make sure you don't pull that loop out. So then now we're just going to adjust strings. And you see if I pull on the middle string over here, it adjusts. If I pull on the end string, it adjusts. The one thing I don't want to do is pull too much on this string, because that's going to shrink our loop down. And we don't want that. We need that loop for the button. So you can pull on this side. You can pull the tan string, the second string. But now, of course, if you need to see that again, just go back, rewind the video, and watch it again. But now that we're doing this, you see we've still got a bottom string, a top string, and we're just going to go through the same process. We're going to make sure that we maintain the pattern, top string, bottom string. We're going to go down the length of the bracelet this way. Now, by following this pattern, you end up with a reversible option, because on the one side you've got color A in the middle, color B down the sides, and if you flip it over, color A on the sides, color B down the middle. So you can wear this whichever way you want. And this isn't just for bracelets, by the way. This weave right here, this will work for a whole lot of stuff. This is just a way you can braid the cord to carry it without it getting tangled up. It's the way you make the keychain. You can make your, I mean, you can use this for just about anything. Any way that you want to have a nice little length of P-cord. I've seen people use this as belts in emergency. I've people use this as rifle slings. Because not only do you get a rifle sling out of it, for example, but you also have about 100 feet or so, 50 feet, 100 feet of P-cord with you that you can take off and use in an emergency as well. And that's another thing, another reason that these bracelets started, because it's a way to carry a good, say, 20 feet of P-cord on you without having it just wrapped up in a backpack. It's just out of the way, it's on your wrist, and if you need it in a survival situation, you've got it. Okay, so the length that I've worked it to here, putting it around the wrist right here, you can see it's just about good. I'll have a button over there at the end, and it's going to give me just a little bit of extra in case the cord decides to shrink or anything. So what we're going to do next is secure these ends. So you're going to just leave yourself about 1/4 of an inch of the actual P-cord on the end. You're going to cut it off. Okay, so take your lighter. Now, you got to be really careful here. P-cord will burn and it will turn into melty, dripping, red-hot nylon. You don't want it falling around, dripping, setting fires. You definitely don't want it falling on your skin. Now, I might have left this one. So let's get that nice and hot. Okay, and I like to use the knife to just round it off. Mush it down, so now that's locked in. It's not going to come out, and by rounding it off, there's no sharp edges or anything over here, sharp plastic that can poke you. Maybe cut it just a little bit shorter this time. Get nice and melty and hot. Okay. So now those ends are secured. Next thing we're going to do is put the button on. There's a few different ways to do this. I know I used to actually take the knife and bore out opposing holes here. However, I've learned over time you don't really need to go through that step, and it's really, really hard to get this fat P-cord through that hole. It takes a lot of effort. So I learned a much faster technique, and we're going to do that. What I like to do now is get a Tonto blade or something similar to it that you don't mind messing up a little bit if necessary. Put it right in the hole, and then give it a good tap on the top. I'm actually doing this very gently because I'm afraid to break the camera. And you'll just rotate through all 4 of those holes. Okay, turn it over. And now we've got a hole here. So now what I'm going to do is just open this space up a little bit more. Now it's going to be pretty easy to get those P-cord lines through that button. Ow, hot, just enough to make this not stringy and fall apart, just to slightly melt the ends together and thread it through. And if this ends up looking not nice and not pretty, it doesn't matter. Come on. There we go. And then you just pull the button up to the point where you want it. So we're just going to leave the length required for that string. Cut, and how much you leave here really doesn't matter because we're going to melt the crap out of all this anyway. The reason I keep moving it around is to keep it from dripping in any one spot. So we do need to burn this down a little bit. Get it nice and melted. And then we're going to smush that down. We'll do it again. If it ends up like that the first time, just heat it up again. You don't need to use a hand lighter for this either. If you got a little tiny mini blowtorch or like a barbecue grill lighter, that works even better because it gives you a little bit standoff range. This can get a little hot on your thumb. It doesn't always look the prettiest, but you can go back and you can clean that up later just with like a razor blade or something. Just scrape some of that excess off, but still going to be a little bit hot, but here we go. Completed P-cord bracelet. There we go. Now what I always recommend to people is either soak it in very hot water or wear it in a very hot shower for a little bit, and then just let it air dry on your wrist, and it'll kind of shape itself. Like this one is kind of, it automatically just falls into the shape of my wrist whenever you put it together. Also, when it's like this, you can do things with it. If you have a buttonhole on a shirt or, you know, on a piece of gear or something, you can sew a loop in and clip this, use it as a lanyard, put something through there. I'll give you an example, a quick example. I can't show you the front of it because this is actually a restricted area badge that lets us into our secure compound, but this is how I keep it attached up to my collar, and then this sits in my pocket till I can take it out and show the security guard. And that way I always have it, I never lose it, and it's a lot tougher than one of those flimsy little elastic things that some people have like ID cards on and stuff. So you can do all sorts of stuff. You wanted to attach a clip or a keyring, all you have to do is start it as normal, except you just put the keyring inside this initial loop and then cinch it down, and then that's permanently in there. And you can always remove it, you know, you just slide the keyring off if you want to do something like that. I love these Night Eyes S-clips because then I just leave a tight little loop and then I can put this on and off. You can use carabiner clip as well for that, anything like that. Just an alternate way to finish this. This comes out nice and straight if you follow the pattern alternating, but here's another option you have. Instead of doing it back front, back front, back front, if you just keep the same string on the same side every time, and here's what I mean. This is the back string right now, so let's do back string. And now keep this the back string. And now keep this the back string. So this is what happens if you forget to alternate front, back. So now not only do you know what it looks like if you do make that mistake, but it actually comes out kind of cool, like a little double helix sort of DNA looking twisty thing, and it'll just keep going as long as you make it like that. Alright, so to do an alternate, I'm going to start with the cross left and right. Loop it around right here. And then we'll give it one more loop around. 2 loops. Okay. Now we can start bringing these around. Now since these are already going left and right, these two in my hand, cross them over like so. We're going to go on top of this string and then under this one. Now yes, this gets a little bit complicated until you get it all started and looking right. Now this second string goes on top of and then under, just like the other one does. Again, you can burn the ends to keep them all nice and neat and not frayed. Now if you do that right, when you kind of cinch this tight, and this one takes a little bit of practice, you get that little box looking pattern right there. Alright, and now you just keep going. So you see how we have it established left, right, up, down. And once again, this one goes on top and then under. So, on top and then under. And then the other one's going to do the same thing. Leave a little loop here on top and then under. And this is a really good one for lanyards and such. And just pull it nice and tight. It's a little bit more labor intensive, but it's got a pretty good look when it all comes out right. Okay. And here's what it starts to look like as you work on it. You get this nice little box looking stitch going on. Now there's an alternate version to this too, which makes a little spirally, which looks pretty good. And that's how I did the lanyard for this knife, more of a round shape. What you'll do is, instead of folding 90 degrees and 90 degrees, what you'll do is fold it 45 degrees this way, fold this one 45 degrees this way along the corners, and then you'll pass these strings 45 degrees as well. So see how that works? Instead of going straight across, we've moved over to the corner. So now this one will go same thing, over and then under. And then this one also over and then under. This is so much easier when you burn the end so it's not all frayed out like that. Just FYI. And when you tighten that up, you can see it's already, here's the nice little box, and we're going 45 degrees against that. So you're going to do the exact same thing. Okay, and you can see, looking at that, that it's starting to spiral that way. And it will continue to spiral as long as we do that pattern. So just two little alternates right there. Now, the last thing I'm going to show is how you actually set this up for a lanyard on a knife or something. As I kind of alluded to earlier, I find it a lot easier and a lot better to take the strings out. So just take the strings out so you have two lengths of P-cord without the strings in it. We'll just go ahead and use this Benchmade nitrous just as a demonstration piece. So this is one where you definitely burning the edges here just to melt it up a little bit definitely helps. Want it as compact as possible on the end. There's one. By the way, if you've never heard of Dos Gringos, it's actually a pair of real U.S. Air Force fighter pilots that got together to sing some ridiculous songs one day, and people liked it, and they're actually pretty good. So, all right, so we're going to pass the first string through, and then the second string. Now, if this is a pain, you can use a pen or a knife or something else to kind of help it through there. So now we've got both strings going all the way through. We'll just pull this roughly even, and this doesn't have to be even because this is just a demonstration, but once you've got that on there, you can do any of the weaves we just did. So I'll just do the most simple one. And this is just kind of crude and rough right here. You could tighten these up a lot and make it look a lot nicer, but if you don't want to put a clip or anything through there and you just want to put the lanyard right on the knife, that works. And again, lanyard on anything, not just the knife, but anything you want to put that on. And then of course you'll cut the ends, melt that off, cut these ends. Actually, that's something I haven't demonstrated yet, so let me just do that real quick. It's just like when you're doing the button, except there's no button. Knife, and again, rock it back and forth to smooth it out, but that will hold that in there. But no edges to like snag you or anything like that. So, guys, there are 1,000,001 uses for P-cord. I cannot begin to tell you all the things. I think I said this before, but you're only limited by your imagination. A buddy of mine last year in Iraq, sitting at Balad Air Base, we actually made a hammock because we were bored and had ridiculous amounts of P-cord. We made an entire hammock on a wood frame just out of this stuff alone because we had nothing else to do. Anyway, hope some of you out there picked up some good tips on how to do this. Go ahead, get yourself some cord, practice. Get good, learn some new things, put up a video of your own in the comments. If you know some other techniques that are really cool or you want to share, please do. And I'll be back again soon with another video.